we've heard about the Bass Advisory Council. There's definitely some interesting things that happened this offseason, and it seemed to have some of the Bassmaster anglers kind of maybe caught off guard and kind of speaking their minds on social media. And shortly after that, we hear an announcement from Bassmaster about the Bass Advisory Council, which was like 6 anglers. And there's been a little bit of talk about it, but not a whole lot. So we're going to dig into it tonight. I've got one of the 6 members joining us tonight. Welcome, Alex Wetherell.
Thanks for having me.
So Bassmaster Elite Series, I guess you're going into your 3rd season, right?
Yep, 3rd season.
Bassmaster Classic Qualifier 2025. Yep. How's that sound?
Sounds great. One of those things I've been trying for a lot of years now. So nice to finally be in it.
Right. So this is your 3rd season. So you had you had a couple years. I mean, you fished the Opens for quite a while, and then in 2022 you had a really good Northern, right? And that punched your ticket to the Bassmaster Elite Series. Your rookie season was a learning experience. I think that's a fair way to put it.
It's a polite way to put it.
And you bounced back and had a really solid season last year.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely, it's nice. It's like now I've kind of settled into being on the elites, and like you said, you put it very nicely that my first year was not the best on the elites, but it was a lot of years in the Opens, like almost making it, almost qualifying, being really close. But like I got to give a lot of credit to the guys going through the Opens, because you have one bad event and like you're done. At least It's now 9 events, so you can have a little bit of a slip up, but man, when you're doing 3 events, like you have one bad event, it's like you have 2 more ahead of you, and you're like, oh, why even fish them? Because you really need to, I think, top 30, top 25 every single one just to get close to qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hellabass Live, presented by Arsenal Fishing, is normal, boosted by Parles Lithium. So there's codes down in the description for those partners if you want to support them for supporting the show. And so I mean, just being completely honest before we do that. So Brian says we sound good, look good. So we're on track here. But I mean, honestly, your back was against the wall last year, right? Like you were 88th your rookie year. So I think if you don't finish in the top 70, you were done.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was one of those where I'm like, okay, this is not what you want, But my dad said it to me a long time ago. Like, would you rather qualify for the Elite Series, like, right away, my first year or so in the Opens, and then like be one and done, or would you rather, like, when you make it, be there long term? And so I think that was one of the benefits of fishing the Opens so many years and getting the experience that I did, that I wasn't really that worried about 1 year, because I have a little bit more experience under my belt now, and my plan is to be here for the long term. And so had a good year this year, and that's the way we're heading.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about my stocking head. It's we did get up into the 20s today, so it was a warm up, but it's been pretty cold lately. Yeah, so we'll get into some of the Elite Series stuff, but and one of the main reasons that we wanted to have you on is there was 6 members invited, somehow put on this advisory board, and I don't know if we can get into that, but maybe like how were you were nominated or selected or invited, or maybe you drew the short straw and you were stuck with it. I don't know how to think about it, but you go from being like, right, you're basically fishing your way to stay alive this season. Now you're on the advisory board. So how did that all come together? What can you share?
So the advisory board was just, everything was voted on. So we all of us anglers, most of us, we had like a group chat going, just discussing the season. And when it came to wanting to, put a group together, we all voted on it. A couple of the veterans, did a good job of organizing everything. And, this way it wasn't just some person, with the power behind them choosing who it is, but it was the anglers speaking. And I was certainly very surprised to see that my name came up, but they kind of did it in a way that, the veterans would vote for, a veteran, and different, year groups would kind of vote based on that. So the guys around my year group, when they came in the elites, voted me in, and certainly highly appreciate that. And so I think it was, if I'm doing it right, 5 of us or 6 of us and we voted for one of us to be the president, which ended up being John Cruz, which was really nice because I actually didn't really know much about it, but I found out afterwards, like John Cruz has a lot of experience from the last time, they had an angler group. I think this was like early 2000s back in like the ESPN days. So like he has a lot of experience with that group and how it was formed and, all the different type of stuff surrounding it. So, him, like Anelli, like a lot of Swindle, like a lot of those guys have been around for a long time, have a lot of experience. So it's nice kind of having that is one thing that I really do like about who the guys voted onto this board is just the well-rounded experience of the guys, right? Like from Menendez to Cruz, and then some of the younger guys. So it's a nice healthy balance, and I think there's a bunch of really level-headed, business-minded people in that group, and so it's nice to see.
Yeah. And so just for the people that don't know, right, it's Alex Wetherell and Ben Milliken are kind of the younger, right? I guess the 2 to 3 year angler bracket. And then in the middle you've got Drew Benton and Lee Livesey, who are kind of the people that came in right around the last split, right? That kind of that generation. And then you got Mark Menendez and John Cruz, which are kind of the veterans that have been kind of, almost around, almost maybe since the inception of the lead series, are pretty close to it, right? Menendez definitely was, and Cruz was right around that time. And then is obviously they got other people in this picture like Chase Anderson and Davey Height. Are they part of that group when you guys talk, or are they just there for the picture? Or
So like Davey was there just because Davey is kind of a liaison of sense sorts, and between the anglers and Bass, he was an angler, so I think in certain instances speaks on behalf of the anglers. And then so Chase was there, CFO was there, so there was a couple people from Bass that were there. Davey was there, and then they had Bass brought Chick-fil-A there, so I'm never gonna say anything bad about that. Big Chick-fil-A fan, but yeah, it was nice. Like when we got together, when we let them know we had a group. Chase was actually like very positive about the whole thing. Was happy to hear about it. Asked us literally like a few days later to fly down. So we flew down to Alabama, met with them, and we had like an all-day meeting, and then we had lunch, and that's when we had Chick-fil-A, and it was really good. It was really productive, and it was just, I think, from the angler standpoint, it was nice to see and hear from the CEO Chase as to how positive he was about the group. And I think for them it was you hear people have different opinions and they might reach out to Bass individually, but when that happens, they don't know if that individual is speaking on behalf of the entire 100 anglers or if it's just their personal opinion. Whereas now you kind of have a situation where they can go to these, this group of guys and know that, what they're going to be saying and speaking, back to Bass, communicating back to Bass is going to be the voice of all 100 anglers, or at least the vast majority of them. So, I think in that sense, Chase and those guys were really happy to finally have, that go-to and have the confidence that, when they're talking to us, it's, talking to everybody.
Right, and a little bit of buffer, right? Instead of
Right.
hearing,
Right.
chatter from
Well,
70 different people. Now they got it down to 6, and hopefully that's a consensus at that point.
right. And that's the thing is some people are better than others about being able to, just how they communicate. Some people are more passionate about others. And I think this group brings a healthy balance of both.
Right. But it definitely sounds like this was angler driven from the start, right? This was
Yeah.
definitely from the bottom up. And you guys brought this, you kind of formulated this on your side, brought it to Bass, and then Bass was like open to accepting it, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like Bass was like, "Hey, we think you guys need to put together a panel," and right, it was definitely from the angler side.
Yeah. Well, we had a meeting last August.
Sure.
Just like an angler meeting with Bass, and we voiced some concerns and some things that we'd like to just see continue to be improved upon. And I think initially this was Bass's, reaction to that and their their way of hopefully trying to address some of those things. So I think they had good intentions, just wasn't executed, in the best way. So that's when we said, okay, let's get involved here, and let's sit down with them again and work this out in a way that everybody's happy. And I think we were able to do that for the most part. And what one of the things that I try to keep into perspective is like, this is a long-term vision. So like, not every single little thing is going to get solved the very first day. But I think like we addressed the vast majority of the issues. And, one of them that, I don't think is a hidden thing was like just the payouts. And, they listened and they took care of that. And then, look, moving forward, it's, talking about some of the rule changes, talking about some of these other things. And like I said, it's nice to see that what we're bringing to the table is being, listened to, and especially from the CEO. Like, actually, he's very open and, wants to work with us.
Nice. Right. So I think they announced what in like, let's see, the press release came out December 12th. Like, when did the movement on the angler side really start picking up? Like, when did you guys really start, like, how long did it take to get to this point?
It was like right away. Like, I think everyone's reaction, like when
So it was the payouts was like the straw that like really got things going.
the payouts is what really did it, because it like in the economy we're in right now with inflation, where it's at, like everything's more expensive. And that was one of the
Mhm.
things that, we were trying to address, is like, okay, everything's continuing to increase and our costs are continuing to increase. And so, initially, I think when I heard the news, I was like, oh, no entry fees. I was like jumping up and down, because I'm like thinking that, everything stays the same, no entry fees. And then I think some guys started to do the math, and it was like, okay, good intentions, just maybe not exactly what we want the outcome to be at the end of the day. And so that's what spurred things on, and kind of how we got the ball rolling.
All right. So that was basically announced October 30th. And then basically 6 weeks later, breaking news, Bassmaster advisory. So that was really the sprint of the anglers getting together and really formatting and reaching out to Bass. And so it happened pretty quick.
Yeah, like happened very quick. Like I said, like when we formed the group and we talked with Chase and those guys, like he was like, hey, like, can you guys fly down? And 3 days later, we flew down and met with them. And because the season's coming right around the corner, so like we had to have our discussion with them, and then we had to figure out a solution, and then get all that, taken care of, formalized, and then, get it out there before the season starts, and rules, and like, and that's the thing that a lot of guys don't see, is everything that goes into this leading up to the season, on the angler's end and on Bass's end. So, for both of us, we had to get this figured out ASAP.
MJ wants to give you a special shout out for being one of the few anglers that can actually put together an Excel spreadsheet in a cohesive manner.
I appreciate that. So a few guys told me it was just too much info, but I enjoy my Excel sheets. Like, I'm an analytical guy, so on the business side of things, I like data. I like Excel. So that was
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
one
No.
I love to jump right into.
I honestly, there was a couple of you anglers that came out with it fast enough that I didn't bother. But like, I had a video that did pretty well where I did like reverse calculated all the BPT for the last 3 seasons to like figure out who would be like in the bottom, 20 or whatever,
Yep.
and what they would have to do for that season to even have a chance to requalify. So yeah, I'm a big. I mean, that's what I do, like my day job. So what do you got some background in Excel that, or where's your experience and love for Excel come from?
So I love the business side just as much as the fishing side. So like,
Mhm.
I worked at Cabela's for 7 years, and then I worked at Lunker City and kind of worked my way up there, and got to the point where I was, updating our shipping software. I built our website, and then when it comes to like inventory and all this type of stuff, like I tried to improve every system that we had. And with a lot of that, like Excel is a very cheap man's software. Like, it can do a lot of things that you don't have to necessarily buy an expensive program to do, especially when you can get into some good formulas. So when it came to a lot of the business type of stuff, like product, like on just on the manufacturing side, with Lunker City, like when we were creating products, like you have to figure out what the product cost, and there's all sorts of like materials and labor and production overhead and all this type of stuff. So that's where Excel comes in.
Absolutely. Right. Very cool. And so for people that have like in the chat, like if people have questions about like, advisory board, how, things that I'm not covering, feel free to like chime in the chat. I mean, there are some things I know that Alex and the advisory board can't talk about. They try to keep things, control the amount of information and when it comes out in a timely fashion, right? Like they're not here to like air out all the dirty laundry of every little thing that they're talking about, so but I think there are some things that can be talked about, but just if he has to say I can't like go into that, you'll just have to respect that. So I mean, just
right. But I will say that is actually one of the really nice things about this group so far is how private it has been. Like that's I think one of the concerns from B.A.S.S side is that they want to share stuff with the anglers, but you typically have a few or one person or whoever, like somehow information gets out, right? And it gets out pretty quick sometimes. And so I know from a business end on their end, like just trying to be objective here from their shoes, it's like, well, that's not really what you want. So I do have to say this group has been very good about like keeping things private, and like the stuff that can be public can gets talked about on all the different podcasts and everything, but the private stuff that we discuss within, everyone's done a really good job of not sharing that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not, you don't want everything coming out on TikTok every 30 seconds.
No, you don't.
So I assume that you must have like a 15-ish anglers that are kind of you're their representative. Does everybody have kind of their group, or is it kind of,
Yeah,
how does that work?
somewhere between like 15 and 20 anglers, and just mostly guys around the same years as me. But yeah, it's been good too, because like I know a good portion of them reached out initially and said that they were happy to see that I got voted in, and I told them I really appreciated it, and I know that's like my biggest thing when I'm on this board or representing these guys is like I have my personal opinion and what I would like to see, but that's not why I'm here. So I want to try to listen to as many of them as I can, and reach out and know where everybody else stands, and then that's the kind of voice that I'm speaking, because I know in the past that has been a concern from some of the older guys is like whoever's on the board is just going to push what they want, but that's why I said earlier, like I think the group of guys that is on this board now are pretty selfless, pretty level-headed, and I think are going to do a good job of representing like the entire group of guys.
So try to be true to like what's your group, regardless of like you could be super passionate that like we all need to wear pleated khaki pants, but
Right.
if the group
Pink
says
life jackets, but like if the whole
right,
group
but
doesn't
like,
want to do that, well,
or
that's
the
not what I'm
majority,
here
right?
for.
If 12 of your 16 guys say we want to go this way, then you have to swallow your, you know, you can maybe share some of it, but you have to be like honest and be like, hey, as much as I think this is a good idea, the majority of my group really feels that like this is the way we need to go.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Right on. That's good, and hopefully the rest of your peers, you know, behave and operate in a very similar fashion to make it work.
Yep. People are someone's hating on the beanie. What's up with that?
Nah, it's more the usually I wear a cutoff visor, and that's more what he's
Oh,
talking about. And he wants as a joke to me to cut the actually I have a hat upstairs that I need to customize. I forgot to bring it down tonight. Um so Marty, who is a tournament director himself here, wants to know is like, are you guys going to have any say in rule violations or providing feedback? Maybe not getting the specifics like active, but I mean, is that something that's on the table?
I know that's something that some anglers definitely want. And I know there's some concerns with that too, because it's like if some of the anglers have a say when there's a violation, well, if the person who's helping decide on that like hates the person that got the rule
Yeah,
got
that would be
violated.
more like live, right? That's the question of like, should this advisory board weigh in on, right? Like, I think what you're saying there is should Lisa consult the advisory board when something happens in an event, right? Then that's where something where like, right, there could be personal feelings could get in the way, right?
Right.
I think
That's the devil's advocate of it. I think ultimately, what I'll just speak personally. What I would like to see is to have the anglers talk with Lisa about rules, get rules set up before the season, and then let Lisa just do her job during the season.
absolutely.
Because I think like if rules are set up, like, and here's the thing too is like some things are not as easily like done as it seems like because a
Mhm.
lot of the rules that people have issues with it comes down to like intent, and like no matter how you write them, like you can't always cover every single possible scenario. So I think the anglers should do as good of a job as they can to help Bass write the rules in a way that cover most situations. And then I would just personally like to see her just do her job and not have anglers like get in the way of doing it. And I think for us the biggest thing is just when it comes to rules, knowing what those rules are, how they're written out, and having ample time to read and understand them, and then just let us go fish for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, and I think like there's a couple things that I keep hearing, right? Like some people say they think the dead fish penalty is too extreme because nobody's trying to kill a fish. That one. I think people talk about the sixth fish and the 2 pounds. Like, is that too severe? Um, the no information rule, right? Like that's probably one that needs more cleaning up and clarification, and right, that's just a sensitive topic. So like the more that we can work on that rule to make it more clear, and I think a lot of anglers understand and observe the intent, and there's some other anglers that at least, right, I guess, are allegedly not are interpreting it differently and pushing it, right? So I think that's some of it. I think
Yeah.
the one thing that I always like the one personally, just thinking back to uh the who's the guy that had to retire mid, trying to remember his name now. He got DQ'd from Hartwell. And I think he retired mid-season this year because he ran out of money because he was like on the water late one day, like into the off limits. Hudnall? Derek
Yeah,
Hudnall.
yeah, no, yep.
So this was before you started, Derek Hudnall. He was like on Hartwell one day too long. And he's like, it was weird that I was out pre-fishing for 2 hours and I didn't see anybody else pre-practicing. And then he like double checked his dates, right? And then he gets DQ'd for the whole entire tournament. And to me, that seems like you could easily just lose an official practice day, and that would be a much more judged, a much more appropriate punishment because nobody would intentionally trade a day 31 days in advance for a day the week of. Like,
Well, same thing like Kobe Krieger. I think it
yeah, I
was
think there's more to
last.
that story than we really know based on what I've heard, but it's a good example, but I don't know that's exactly how that one worked out. I don't know that he
Okay,
was
yeah,
actually
maybe
I don't know that he
maybe I
was
don't know anything
actually on
about
the
it.
water.
Yeah.
I think he had to pretend that he was on the water to take a DQ because he couldn't make the event. That's what I
Oh,
heard.
okay.
I don't
Yeah.
want to get into the details because there's some personal stuff behind it, but
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
same kind
That's
of
fine.
thing.
Well,
But
the
that's the
example I
kind
was
of
gonna.
thing like, when it's not an in-event thing and there's time to talk about, maybe that's where the advisory board could, right? Like I think in a tournament situation where like a phone call's made or a cast is made, like that's too soon. But I think in that situation where you've got 30 days, maybe then the advisory board could have a role in that.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing too is like this is why the intent is such a big component to this. Is like I'll give you an example, like running a no wake zone. So if a guy unintentionally runs in a wake zone because he didn't know, well then like which I've been guilty of myself, like
Sure.
well, that should not be as serious as a guy who knows he's going to be late coming back to weigh in, so runs them anyway, knowing that, well, this is just going to equate to a small little penalty, so I'll run it and you make it in. It's like, so that's where guys can start, that's where it's like, well, if every time this rule equates to this, small violation or whatever it is, well, then guys will start using that to their advantage because they're going to know that they can, start playing that game. So, that's where it's like just let Lisa do her job. She can make the phone calls, figure out that stuff, let her do it.
And should
Well,
it matter if no wig zone was explicitly covered in the pre-meeting video or not.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
no,
sometimes there's no wake zones that are covered in great detail, and I think Bassmaster does a pretty good job of that. So maybe they all are. I know just from fishing the Bassmaster Opens last year, they, especially in like lacrosse, they did a really good job of outlining all the, at least the ones I knew about,
yeah.
that were
Yeah.
legitimate. So
I think the angler involvement comes into play when guys aren't happy with what the result that bass gives
right.
is, and I think the better job the anglers can do with bass to get the rules and everything straightened out to where it's like very cut and dry as best as can be. I think
Yep.
for the most part you'll probably start to avoid most of those situations where people feel like they need that angler input.
Absolutely. Just kind of seeing here. I don't see any more questions, more comments about the beanie than anything. Yeah, so keep any questions you got coming in. I think here. Is there anything that you I don't know, that you can talk about that you're excited about, or things that you guys are, I don't know, like things that we're not thinking about that maybe you can talk about in a way that are like high enough level, or I don't know, like maybe you can't.
Um,
I don't just
Yeah, no, I think there's maybe like a few things that we're talking about as a group that's like a little ways off. I know we've already talked about like making some changes like next season,
Mhm.
small stuff, but there's definitely like one or two like really exciting things that the group is interested in. Bass is interested in. I think one good thing that came out of that group, that meeting in Alabama, is like hearing how Bass, at least has ideas and is trying to work on ways to help the anglers on the business end, and just even on viewership and just some of that type of stuff. I don't want to give too much away, but just Bass is definitely trying to up their game in a bunch of different areas. It's, I think, for whatever reason that is, I was pleasantly surprised to hear some of the things that they're working on and working towards, next year or soon after that, for some stuff that I think will help viewership and just will help the sport and Bassmaster as a whole.
I guess, is there any interaction between the advisory panel and the technical committee?
When you say technical
Or
committee,
well, so they had their last year, right? They were taking all those surveys, and they supposedly had this, like, maybe it wasn't the equipment or the, I forget,
oh
maybe
yeah,
they,
with like lives with like the
like, right, the people that were supposedly deciding whether we get copy breaks and how many transducers. Is there any crossover potentially going forward to talk about gear and equipment and what's allowed and what's not and that kind of stuff?
No, I haven't. We haven't really talked with that group
Okay.
at all. But I would have to imagine, based on conversations so far, that a lot of that burden would probably get put on us anglers now, because I think before they were trying to use them to do what they can now do directly through us, and
Sure.
very very quickly now, if they want to know what most guys want, or how guys want things to be set up, within a day or two, we can get an answer out of most of the group now. So
You want to get, what did they call it? Bass, yeah, it was the Bass Technology Committee is what they called it. So yeah, and then I guess any rumblings about like bringing the A rig back or the double fluke or allowing that kind of stuff, or has there been any discussion about any of that kind of stuff?
no talk about either one of those. You definitely have very passionate sides on both sides when it comes to
Mhm.
the forward facing sonar, which I think is like kind of obvious. I don't think I'm saying anything like surprising, because I
For
think
sure.
depending on who you listen to on certain podcasts, there's some guys that are very passionate about banning it, and some guys just think it's the next step in technology. And I've heard very compelling arguments on both sides. Like I try to be objective about it, and like there's certainly a part of me that understands and agrees with banning it portion, and at the same time, like, there's a reason why we're not using blackberries anymore. So, like, I see both sides to it. I was trying to think what else I was going to say. I got off track on something else, but what was your question regarding? It was
We're talking about like baits and like like things like Alabama rig and double fluke rigs and some of that stuff. Like, because some people want to see, like, you hear the counter argument is like, if you're going to let us use a live scope, why not let us throw it, like, right, like, if
right.
is that an
Oh,
equalizer or something like that, right? Like,
right. Yeah, I'll speak personally. I am a fan of like the idea of, allow me to go put extra gas tanks in the boat. Like, allow me to go do some, like, chop a limb down and
right,
get in the back area somewhere where like no one else can. And like, I would like to see more like ingenuity and like just more creativity as to how and where we can
yeah,
catch.
or having a one event you can use a backup boat or something, you
Right.
know what I mean?
Like,
Like,
do some weird stuff that like gets exciting instead of, it's like, I don't want it to be like NASCAR where everything's so regulated to where it's like you're not going to see anything crazy. I want to see people
so
like,
you want to see a little poche in the elites is what you want
yeah,
to see.
listen, I got no issue with that. Like, some people, yeah, and some people get weird about it, but like, when I see people put extra work in or find creative ways of catching them, like, more power to them.
Yeah, I mean, for the when they're showing that screen, I mean, that A rig glows like a, I mean, like, that's a big image coming on the screen. Like,
Yeah,
some people
chandeliers
would
do look
enjoy
pretty
that.
big on a screen. Yeah.
I could see it coming back, but I think we got to limit it to like somewhere between 1 and 3 hooks, regardless of state, right? I think like in the states where like 5 or 7 arms is legal and a bass crashes into it and it's hooked like 6 times is not a good look. But if you keep it down to like a Minnesota rig, right? It has like arms and blades and one hook, but that's not legal in bass.
At a bare minimum, give me the double fluke rig back. Like,
Yeah.
come on. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Because at the same time too, like, one of the coolest things when I was really young, I think it was like my first year as a co-angler when I was like 16. Some guy brought out the old like drop shot with a jig on the bottom, and I was like,
Right.
oh, that's so
It's
ingenious. Like,
genius.
yeah, yeah,
Or the
I'm,
Carolina rig with the jig weight, or yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah. As far as I know, and you can confirm this, the lake's all done by Bass well ahead of time schedule. Do you guys have any input or comments or feedback on lakes or schedule? I mean, I think Bassmaster is still going to set the schedule, but is there any dialogue about schedule or lakes or fisheries?
So, now, granted, I could be wrong about this since I've only been in this 2-3 years now, but I don't think we have any input, at least from what I've seen or heard. There hasn't been any discussion. It seems to be Bass, takes care of that. There's a lot that goes into it, and certainly being from the Northeast, like, I'm biased this year. Like, we don't have any New York events or anything near me, but so obviously I didn't get any input this year, but. No, as
I
of
could
right now,
see I could see maybe something like high level, like Bass asking through the Angler Advisory Board, how important is it to you on a scale of 1 to 5 to have new fisheries on the schedule, right? I don't think they really care to ask you, do you like Florida? Do you like New York? Right? Like, they might ask you more like, to keep the anglers happy, like, is it more important to fish good fisheries, or is it more important to fish new fisheries, or like that type of stuff? But I don't think they're ever going
yeah,
to be like, who
I,
wants to
I,
fish Chickamauga? Yes or no? Like, I don't think
yeah,
it's going to
no,
be
I,
like that.
I will say, I think in one of they'll send questionnaires out to us like once in a while, and
Mhm.
I do feel like that might have been one of the questions on there. Like, do you want to see, different fisheries from like the year before, previous year? And I think the vast majority of guys want, different fisheries. Like, I don't think I'm alone where I'd like to show up to a place that we haven't been yet. Like the Oahe, like, I wasn't on the elites yet for that one, but like that
Right.
was cool because it was like a place you haven't gone to before. There's no that it can be a tough thing being a younger guy. Is like, you go to some of these places and guys have 15 years of experience on it, and it's like, man, like, I got a little bit of a hill to climb here. Whereas you go to a new place, it's like you're just okay now. Who can really catch them the best?
Yeah. So I respond to somebody. I don't quite understand Clay's question that he put in there. Um, is there any like? Have you guys? What about like feedback on like opens or EQ type stuff? Like, is that like any kind of discussion, or is that like completely separate? You guys just focused on once you make the elites, like, or is there any discussion about how people get there and that kind of stuff?
I don't think we've had any direct discussion about like the opens or anything like that. We definitely haven't with like the board. Like I think maybe like I've talked with some of the anglers and stuff about some of that stuff, but
Sure.
I don't think we've Bass or us have gone back and forth on that at all. It's just basically we had so many. The biggest thing was in that short amount of time, like we had so many things that we had to try to discuss and go over before things got finalized. So everything was concentrated around that. Now, like moving forward, will we start to have a bigger say in some of this stuff? And yeah, hopefully. But as of right now, no, we didn't talk about the opens at all.
Yeah. And I think right, yeah, you got to prioritize, right? Like I said, you're not trying to boil the ocean and try to change everything that Bassmaster's ever done in 3 months, right? Like there was a couple important topics that we're passionate about that the anglers felt really important coming into this season that you wanted to get addressed. And now you're probably focused on, at this point, right? We're a little over a month out. It's about prepping for the season, fishing, and maybe collecting notes throughout the season so that come around next September, then back the off season is when you start addressing more of that stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I was trying to say in the beginning is that like this is the very beginning of this group forming. So with that being said, I don't think every issue is going to get addressed like this year in this moment, but yeah. And what is nice too is I think Bass is happy like going into next year they'll have from August until then to address a lot of this stuff and instead of trying to like cram it all into like a few weeks. So yeah, I definitely expect and I believe that a lot more stuff will get addressed and fixed and improved and because that was really the biggest thing from that group was the attitude behind it was that this isn't like an MLF situation where it's like a split and guys are going to go leave for a different thing. It's like we all love Bass. We all want Bass to do as well as possible because it affects us. It affects our businesses, and so we all want Bass to do as good as humanly possible and grow as much as possible. And that's really why we wanted to have a voice and an involvement in the things that ultimately affect us.
Right. And hopefully before there's a major announcement at the end of the season, right? That's been ran by the advisory panel before it just gets dropped in everybody's lap. That's
Right.
that's the theory, anyways. Is there any kind of like scheduled like check-ins, or like do you guys automatically like have a phone call or a conference call every month or every quarter, or is it like as needed, or like has there been any schedule?
No, it hasn't been any schedule, but it's been pretty constant, like just from week to week between all the guys on the board and even just like our entire group has been pretty active with like communicating and just talking about a whole host of things. So that's what's been pretty cool is just seeing like 100 guys in a group have discussions about a bunch of different things, and I think it's been nice because I think before now, like you had groups of guys, that were friends and whatnot, whereas now you kind of have a situation where everybody's actually able to discuss together, regardless of whether you're friends with them or not.
Was this like a bunch of giant text groups or emails, or are there actually phone discussions, or is it a
No,
mix of
no, we
all
have
the above?
yeah, it's like all the above. We have formal stuff and informal.
Like Zoom, like scheduled Zoom type Teams calls, and people get on and
Yep. Yeah.
try to have like an organized civil discussion.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good. But what about like the with Bassmaster and the advisory group? Like, is there a cadence to that at all, or
No, just we had our main meeting in Alabama. We had some more discussions with them, but no, we haven't had any more like in-person sit-down meetings with them.
but it's not like, hey, we're doing a third Wednesday of every month. Bass is sitting down with the advisory council and having a 30-minute chat. There's nothing like scheduled or
No, I think it's kind of as needed as things come up. I don't think like, and especially while the season starts getting going, like I don't think we have had a need yet to do like one every month or something.
Cool. All right. Well, I haven't seen too many more questions. I feel like that puts Alex in an awkward spot to ask MJ's question. Although I kind of agree with them.
Yeah, I try to take the
Take the high road.
try to take the high road on that one, but
Yeah.
I will answer. I don't know who asked it above about my favorite products for Shimano this year, so I'll just throw two out there. So, well, I don't know if they announced it yet or not. So I won't say some of those, but two that I know were announced, like the Poison Adrena rod. That was announced at ICAST, and I'm going to be running a bunch of those rods. Right now, I've mostly all X Prides. I do love my X Prides, but the Poison Adrenas, I like the action of them. They're a little bit faster action. So I'm going to run a bunch of those, and then that new Shimano Vanford spinning reel. Definitely excited about that because one thing I do like about Shimano is that like some of the stuff that you see in the Stella has worked its way down to like twin power, and now you're seeing it in like the Vanford. So like 5 years ago, what was considered like the Stella and the best is now, at like a $250 price point in like the Vanford. So that's definitely something cool about Shimano is like I truly believe they're the best reels out there, and like I don't have to BS or anything about it because like I use them. I would use them whether or not I was sponsored by them, and like they just continue to improve, and like a lot of the stuff that you see in their reels, especially that I love, is like just how long that they last without getting that geary feeling, and it's like they don't wear down after like a season or two, and that really comes down to like a lot of the technology that they've built into them to make them as rigid as possible, and a lot of the stuff that you see on the saltwater side in some way, shape, or form makes its way to the freshwater side. So yeah, it's I'd say if Poison Adrena, Danford, and then they had like the I think it's Zimverno jerk bait. Like that's definitely one that I like a lot, just because like a slim little profile with a little bit deeper bill. And then there's a bait and there's a rod that I'm excited about coming out, but I don't know if they've announced those yet, so I won't say anything.
And they just did announce the new swim bait X Pride rods. I don't know about those were announced recently, but
Yep, some a little different.
and then they announced the Antaras.
Yep, the Antaras. Yep, it's nice to see that back.
It's one thing you mentioned the hard baits, and it was actually somebody else that I chatted with, TK, and it's like for some reason Shimano keeps, whether it was the Macbeth series and the Flash whatever
Flash Booth and all
series,
that stuff. Yeah.
like they don't seem to get the steam. I mean, like Shimano, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like they don't seem
Yeah.
to take off. I mean, I'm not saying they're not good, but like for whatever reason, Shimano like every 3 years comes out with like a pretty serious hard bait roll off, and kind of is meh. Like as far as like acceptance and excitement and I would assume sales based on just observing what's going on. Whereas like their reels are always like
Oh yeah.
right, like people,
Yeah.
it's an interesting dynamic, and I'm not saying it's junk or, but it's just an interesting observation that for whatever reason, and then like they I don't know if that's sister company or they own Jackal, and that stuff typically does really well.
Yep. Yeah, they
So
own Jackal, they own Power Pro, so yeah.
yeah, and
No,
so like
like
yeah, and then in saltwater, Shimano is big for baits, but in the bass world, they don't seem to catch on as much for sure.
right. Oh yeah, yeah. Like all their like spoons and everything, like they're wildly popular, but like
Mm.
their swim bait, their glide bait, like they just came out with, and then I don't know if you saw, like they have a little one out now, a tiny little one, and yeah, I don't see that getting much love, but for now I'm okay with it because like I like using that stuff and not like being out there too much yet. But no, I agree. Like that's kind of one thing I do like about them is they don't come out with a ton. Like they don't just like throw everything out there and see what sticks. It's like they come out with a few certain things, and usually they're pretty stinking good baits, but they don't get as much love, like you said.
That's really your fault because you haven't made enough top tens with those baits. Then
I think you're right. I'm working on that for 2025.
you didn't have enough Shimano baits at the Sabine on deck,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Didn't you make a top 10 at Sabine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any river system, I get excited for. So I'm glad we're going back to Sabine. People hate it. A, I like tough fishing, like anywhere it's tough fishing, and B, if it's a tidal body of water, count me in.
Nice. All right. Well, let's. I think we kind of covered the advisory board. Let's take a 60-second break, and then we'll come back and start talking about the 2025 season and all that kind of stuff.
Sounds good.
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. We have a wide variety of home loan programs in our tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. You can ask Hellabass. He trusted us to help finance his home. Contact the Dream Team today by searching Supreme Lending Dream Team, or click the link below in the description, or scan the QR code on your screen.
All right. Thanks. We're back. Thanks to the Dream Team, back as a partner again in 2025. So excited to have them along for the season, supporting the live streams and the podcasts. So if when you win your first blue trophy this year, Alex, and you're ready to get a second home down south, our guy Aaron can help you out with a loan. So
That sounds good. Well, either way, whether I get a blue trophy or not, I think I'm moving south this year. So
there you go. Well, there you go. He's a fishing guy, so he loves to help out other fishing guys make their dreams come true. So
perfect.
All right, so we got a few more Shimano questions. So yeah, we don't always get a lot of Shimano pros on. Probably haven't had anybody since Josh Douglas a while back. So if you guys got Shimano questions, let them fly. And then also, if there's 2025 Elite Series questions, and I think you are fishing Division 1 of the Opens, or just one Open?
Yeah, I'm fishing Division 1 just for the heck of it. Been on 2 places before and figured why not.
Right. Kind of got a classic, and it just give you another shot to make another or 4 more shots to make the classic, right?
Yeah, I had a little extra time, and like I said, I have fished Waddington a bunch, or Lake Ontario, and then I actually the Chesapeake Bay was where I qualified in the very last event of the Open. So haven't been to the 2 other places. Well, I've been to Clarksville a couple times, but I figured why not? I got this free time. I'm going to do it, jump in them. And, if I've come in second in the Open, so I'm still looking for a win. So I'm going to try to get that under my belt. And like you said, it's another chance at qualifying for the Classic.
Right on. All right. So Delton Brake says he bought the GF. I don't remember what and the SLX DC for Christmas. Says it's been amazing. Impressed for that price. What is the GF?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the GF is, but
SLX DC, I know what that means, but I wasn't sure what the GF was.
yeah, the SLX for the price is I've used the reel and the rod, and it's ridiculous. It's funny seeing the quality when I was I'll just say when I was growing up and I'm looking at that price range. I just feel like the quality nowadays is so much better for the exact same price. So, and then now with the DC, I don't know if you've used a DC reel before, but it's it's kind of dumb. You just make a cast, and if you want to, you just take your thumb completely off. You don't even have to touch it, and the bait hits the water, and it just doesn't backlash.
I had which one did I had a more expensive DC from it was older. It's kind of a bigger reel. It was like a $400 DC. I don't remember.
Metanium DC.
No.
Corrado DC was the first DC.
No, I want to say it was more of a JDM an Essence, Essence, EX
Okay.
Essence. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the one that I had.
They're nice. I definitely, so like I use mostly Metanium and Bantam. And then like if I have like heavy duty stuff, I'll use a Corrado. But on anything that's like jerk bait, crankbait, like anything where it's going to be like a lightweight bait casting into the wind, I'm using a DC.
He was saying about his girlfriend that setup, and he was impressed.
Oh, girlfriend. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But it said and, not a. So that's where, like, if he would have
Right.
said, I bought the girlfriend a.
Right. No,
versus
he bought
and.
the girlfriend and he bought an SLX.
Yeah. So it's great that you could admit that you bought a girlfriend on live with, this many people watching, Dalton. Yeah. Yeah. I had the Essence DC. It was really, it was kind of big and heavy. So I moved on from it. It means an older, it was like an 8-year-old platform or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there definitely is a place for the DCs for sure. They're a little heavier.
Yep.
As a person that has a lot of miles of on my thumb and a fairly experienced thumb, I'd rather spend that money on bearings and gears, right? But there's definitely a place for somebody that's doesn't have as much experience or getting into it. They're a definite great learning tool. Or if a person just doesn't want to concentrate as much, right? There's definitely a place for them.
Well, that's like the SLX is probably a good example of one if you never used a bait caster before, and like if you want to use a good bait caster that's going to actually last you a long time, like that's the SLX. Like that was when I was working at Cabela's, that was one of the biggest issues I would see is like you want to get someone into bait casting, but if you get them a low quality bait caster, the breaking's not going to be good. So it's like they could be doing the right thing, but it's just a low quality reel, so it takes that much longer to learn. So I told people with a spinning reel, it's okay to spend a little bit less on a bait caster. Like don't cheap out. Like get as good of one as that, as you can afford. And, like that SLX DC is like probably a really good example where it's like not too expensive, but also really good quality and is going to last you a long time.
John Lai, a bit of a gear guy. He wants to know if you've used the new Twin Power XD and do you like it for bass?
I haven't used the new XD, but yeah, the Twin Powers. I have Twin Powers. That's the number one reel that I use on the freshwater side, and then I've got a couple of 5000s for the striped bass stuff I do, and I absolutely love them. Like they're lightweight, they're really strong. I personally like I said, I like that 5000 size just because I like a little bit deeper spool. I like that ball knob, but yeah, it's like. The Vanford and the Stratic for me is like the best bang for the buck spinning reel that you can get on the freshwater side. But like, I'll just speak freshwater. When I jumped to Twin Power, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like same thing with Shimano, same thing with like Loomis. Like right, you like get your first Loomis rod and you're like, oh my gosh, like now you can't go back to anything else. So same thing like with that Twin Power. It's hard to explain. It's just so much smoother. The drag is smoother. And it's like weird to say, but it's like, I guess when you get to a higher level with fishing where you can start to, see the difference between finer details, like it feels more sensitive because like you don't have any feeling in that when you're reeling. So it's almost like you can feel everything in the rod because you're not feeling anything when you're reeling.
Yeah. I mean, I think at some point it's a little bit of, it's definitely a little bit of a luxury, right? Like I'm never going to tell somebody they need to, like in today's technology, back to your point earlier, what you get for $100, right? Like you can get an SLX or a Fuego for about $100 and pair it with $100 to $125 rod.
And you got a great setup.
And you got a great setup that I can't say that you're going to catch more fish with a $500 set. You know what I mean? Like it's at some point it's like putting chrome on your pickup and, getting nice wheels on it, right? You do it because it makes you feel good, not because it's actually going to like get you there better. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like for the guys that hunt.
That like high end spinning reel drag, some of that stuff matters, but a lot of it is just extra. And it's more about, it's something you love. It's a passion. You enjoy spending money on it and it makes you happy to do it, right? It's not because you need it to catch fish, right?
Right. No, that's well said. And like for the guys that hunt, it's like Sitka. like the Sitka of like fishing, right? It's like there are subtle differences that you can appreciate, but I'm not going to tell someone they need to do it, you know. And that's a big thing on the Elite Series too. It's like, I think that's one thing is a guy in the Elite Series, I think, should use the best gear, you know, and get the best he possibly can because he's fishing for $100,000. I'm not going to tell a guy who's just fishing a club tournament to go do the same exact equipment. But if you're at a point where like like you said it very well. If you love fishing, if that's where you want to spend your money so that you can appreciate
and you have the expendable income,
right,
then enjoy it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Right. Then you're going to appreciate it. You're going to love it, but you don't have to. You know, I think that's where people get caught up is it's like you don't have to have this setup in order to catch fish, but will it make you appreciate the experience a little more? Yeah, maybe. But
so I think that's a good way. There are improvements that you can appreciate,
right,
but they're definitely not needed or essential.
Right.
They're not essential for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I fish almost all Shimano dialer reels, love them. I've had a few Shimano rods and Loomis rods the other day. I mostly fish Damas now. I've got some Ecstasies, but I never tell anybody like, oh, you gotta get the 755 Ecstasy if you're gonna fish a jig. I'm like, honestly, I don't even use it that much. I use the $250 reels as much or more than I do the $500. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
So I actually want to know, have you used the new Antares yet, or do you have one?
I have not. I've used the old one. I have not used the new one yet. I'm definitely, I'd say probably that is that and like a Metanium 70 are probably the two things that I'm looking forward to trying the most.
Kind of something about the infinity loop just hypnotizes me. What's up, Jay? Haven't seen you in a while. Clay says he's bought so many cheap reels. Now he's just trying to like upgrade one nice reel a year.
Yep, it's a good way to do it.
Tim loves the MGLs. Punch says he's super ready to spend way too much money on the new Antares. I think it also this is a good point. I think it's easier to invest money in a reel because they're rods are easy to break, right? There's just a lot of bad things that can happen to rods, whether you're putting them in your truck or your rod locker or people like. For the most part, reels are kind of bulletproof. I mean, sure, you could bend a handle. I mean, I'm sure you've done that where you've dropped the trolling motor on it and bent a handle and stuff. But for the most part, you can straighten it out or get a new handle. Where like once you dent a rod, that thing is toast. And I mean, most of them have good warranties, but it's a little different. Like it's much easier to protect a $400 reel than it is a $400 rod.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's a good way to do it too. Is like do one setup at a time. Like some of the guys that would come into Cabela's like friends, they would just like, man, it was just crazy because it's like, well, when you start adding everything up, you're like, man, this is like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but you get one nice rod, you get one nice reel. Like this year I'm going to get a nice chatterbait setup. Like this year I'm going to get a nice drop shot setup and just do it that way. And I think, you know, if you do it that way, it's not over the top. It's not crazy. And it's nice too. Like you get a brand new reel. Well, now you can appreciate the difference because like you immediately, you know, can see the difference between those two, and you just do one thing at a time. And I think I'll tell you what, like back to your point, like when I was working there, and people would come in and you get like set them up with new combos, like a $60 Shimano spinning reel and like an $80 rod was like by far and away the number one setup all the time. And I said to people, like, this is all, you know, they would be looking somewhere else. And like, listen, just spend this on this rod, spend this much on the reel at a minimum. If you want to jump up from there, usually people would. They jump up to like, well, what's the difference between this $60 reel and a $100 reel? Oh, okay. Like, here's the differences, and they can feel it, they can see it. And but yeah, ultimately, like $150 combo, that's all people would need. They go out happy. And it was nice too, because I'll shout out Shimano. Like when you buy a Shimano reel, typically it's not going to break down on you like in the first year or two. Like you're going to have it for a long time. instead of like the one thing I hated to see is like a guy comes in, he buys a $30 reel, and then like a couple weeks later he's back and he's like, and it's like, just, you know, bite the bullet the first time, get something decent, and then that way you're on the water enjoying your time.
I mean, I grew up learning to bass fish on Spyrexes and Sedonas and like,
Pyrex, yeah, the double handle.
yeah, like a $40 reel, and that thing was bulletproof. Like, I mean, loaded up with braid and slam back on it over and over again, and it just lasted. Like,
yep. You remember the old quick release, the little trigger up there?
The Quick Fire 2 triggers, and the Spyrex for all had the dual tractor handle.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I think I totally agree, especially on those more price point, modest. Shimano does a great job in those reels for sure, in the spinning reels. Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, there's some years like my Fuego with a Dobbins Fury, I catch more on that than, you know, any, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, throw a wacky rig on it and I catch a zillion, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And so the other thing I would say is, if you do want to treat yourself and invest in a nicer rod, I tend to recommend to people do it for bottom contact or feel, right? Do it for a drop shot rod. Do it for your jig rod. Do it for your football jig. Do it, you know, whatever your thing is, like whatever you like to do for your dragging, feeling, hopping type technique, start there. Like,
100%.
Don't spend $600 on a chatterbait rod, like where you just reel it in, or a topwater rod. Like, that's, you know, throwing buzz baits on an RX is like not a good use of your money.
Right. No, that's really well said. Right. Exactly. And I would tell people the exact same thing. Like, upgrade where you're going to see it the most. Right. Same thing with like a reel. Whereas, like, to your point, you know, flipped, if I'm cranking, I want to upgrade that reel. Like, whatever I'm going to be turning the most and using the most, like, let me upgrade that first, because like you can feel a difference with a reel. Like, you know, just to get like more technical for people, like when you jump up to like a bantam and higher, you know, like that's when you start to get into that like solid, you know, single body reel that helps protect the gears and everything inside from like moving around, because there's tolerances, and so things will wear the more that they can move around. So the more things that can be solid and rigid, the more it's going to feel brand new after like multiple seasons. So on that type of stuff, yeah, you know, that's where you want to spend your money, versus like a technique where like you're turning the handle like 2-3 times, you know, every 30 seconds, like fishing a jig slow. But maybe I'll put, to your point, maybe I'll put all that money into the rod, because, you know, I want to be able to feel those bites. And you really can feel a big difference between a $300 rod and a $100 rod. Again, you don't need it to get that bite on a jig, but you're going to feel more bites, and you'll, again, the more expendable money you have and the more you value your time on the water, because if you're really busy, you can only get out there so much. When you do get a bite, you do want to feel it.
Yeah, for sure. Sure, as we haven't barely talked about the Elite Series coming up at all, but I will mention there is a new code down at the bottom at Omnia Fishing, where if you're all worked up in a tizzy and you're all excited to get some new reels and rods and that kind of stuff, there's a reminder, there's a code down there that saves you 15% at Omnia in January. Now, Shimano stuff is mostly code protected, but if you become an Omnia Pro member, there are ways to get deals on the Shimano stuff. Just saying. You can easily pay for it on some of that stuff. Anyways. So you're most excited about the Sea Bean, and you're guaranteeing a top 10 for fantasy owners. That's what you said earlier, right?
That's exactly what I said.
Okay. So you said you love rivers and tidal. So, I mean, you got the Sabine and the Albemarle Sound.
Yep, I don't know how to say it, so I'm not even going to try. But yeah, you got that, the Sabine, Mississippi. I think there might be one more that I can't remember. I think there's 3, maybe 4.
Well, St. John's, right?
Oh yeah, and St. John's. So yeah.
So this should be, I mean, based on where you should be very comfortable this year.
I should be. Yeah. I like I said, I like tidal bodies, but I especially like tough fisheries. Like I don't, as much as I love Florida, I do love Florida. Like I'm here now, and like caught a bunch of good fish today just playing around. But you can, like, you can turn around and like have a terrible day, and at 1 o'clock, like turn your back, make a cast, and catch like 20 pounds. Like I like the events where you have to do all your homework and put your time in, and like you're running around for one bite here, you run over to this lay down, one bite here, and like you're putting in work and like sweat equity, and like you're just grinding it out. I like those. I like the mental side of it too, where it's like, at noon guys are mentally out of it because like they're not catching them. Like I like working through that. So Sabine's right up
Cool.
that alley.
And so I forget, did they fish St. John's both years
Yeah.
or just?
Last year was St. John's.
Okay. How'd that go?
Good. Made the cut. Didn't make the final day, but I made the cut.
Okay. So you're looking to get, because like you guys start on the
improve
St.
on
John's
that.
and then go to Okeechobee.
Yep. Yeah, in Okeechobee, that was the very first event of my rookie season. I think I finished like 98th. So looking to that's why I came down here to Florida, just so I could drive around here a little bit and try to learn it a little bit better, because it's a massive fishery. And being from Connecticut, it's like that was the one big mistake that I made in that event of my rookie year, was like, in Florida, you have to be around crowds and you have to be comfortable in them, because that means you're around fish. And I was trying to run and gun that event, and that just, you sink your ship pretty quick doing that.
Cool. I guess Punch wants to know, what was your most productive baits last year? So what were the baits that carried you from 88th to 37th or whatever it was year over year? Like what was the biggest turnaround? What was you most successful with in your second year?
So like a bladed jig, that was definitely a big one, and that's just something I have confidence in. Probably one of my favorite techniques. I do things a little differently with my setup too. I fish it a lot heavier than most people would. Heavier line, heavier rod, longer rod. But so a bladed jig. That first event where I top 10'd, I was using that Caperlan Ubari finesse. It's little 4-inch and 5-inch minnow, and like I used that a bunch just for the forward facing sonar stuff and a bunch of the events this year. And then what I didn't use it for any event other than my top 10 at Wheeler, but that 16-inch worm that I used in that event, that was a lot of fun. Like, I don't know if you saw or heard that, but like I went from using a jig that event to which I will say, I do have to shout out Caperlan. Like, so all their stuff is coming in March, February and March of this year. Should be in like Tackle Warehouse and a bunch of those places, but they make a really nice jig. And so anyways, caught a couple fish on that. And I was like, well, let me just try like a big worm. And I catch like a 5 on a 10-inch worm. And then I had 4 16-inch worms in one of those worm bags. I'm like, I don't even know to this day, I don't know where I got them. And I threw it on there, and immediately within like 2 casts, caught a 4-pounder. And then the next 2 days, like every other fish came on that thing. So I didn't get to use it for any other event. Like, I don't think you can catch a smallmouth on a 16-inch worm, but that was one of the most fun events of last year.
So this Caperlan, which I just noticed because you unveiled your wrap a week or so ago. This
Yep.
is a tackle bait company.
So they are actually a fishing brand out of France. So
Okay.
I got the pleasure of flying out last year to France. Got to have like some real like a real croissant and like some real food in France. And but I got to meet the whole team, and like what's cool is that they have the resources and the ability to make like really, really good quality baits. And they just needed like some direction as to, the design, the colors, and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a really cool thing with them, just because it's like, okay, here's what we need to go make. Here's exactly how we need to do it. They don't cut corners at all. We make sure it gets right. And like, we've worked on all the soft plastics. We're working on terminal tackle, jigs, and they're a big brand in France and in Europe, and now they're making their way over to the US.
It looks like they do a lot of like course fishing and a lot of the other stuff, like besides bass, like the pike and other.
Yeah,
I mean,
they have
the other stuff is more popular in Europe, is where a lot of their stuff
right.
looks like it is now.
Yeah, like they have zander, pike, perch, all that, but they don't really. They have bass over there, but not nearly to the level that we do. So, yeah, I don't even think any of their stuff is on line hardly at all. Like that's some of their older
This is
stuff.
Bait Finesse Empire, so you can get some of this
Oh,
stuff.
okay. Oh, there you go. So that's some of their
This would
hard
be
baits.
BFS. These are micro cranks for BFS.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll see when
That's
like the
cool.
stuff comes over, like it's cool too because they're not copying baits. Like even like the stick bait is going to be different. So that was one of the nice things is like I don't like brands that just it's like you're just copying stuff that's already out there. I like improving on things, doing things differently, and that's the other thing too is like sometimes with brands it's like, well, here's what I would love to see, but they don't have the capability to do that. Whereas like this brand, they can do anything. Like they can. One of my favorite things was like when we were talking about soft plastics. They're like, well, like how hard or soft do you want the plastics to be? Like, and they can modify that however you want. Or like the frog. Well, how soft do you want the body of the frog to be? How do you want to change this, improve this? What about the hook? So, that was definitely like I said, like I think they're going to be a pretty big brand when they come over here to the U.S. and so far it's been cool working with them.
A little sneak peek at the frog. There's a Caperlan North America Facebook page if people want to check that out. That's probably the best place if you want to follow along for this brand. Do you know is there any dealers, any tackle warehouse, any place?
Yeah, I know.
Any place?
The only place I know right now is Tackle Warehouse. There's going to be a handful of distributors that they're starting off with, and then a handful of like dealers that are doing it direct with. So I don't know who all those distributors are going to be selling to, but I do know they'll be in Tackle Warehouse because I said so. You guys got to make sure you get in that because that's one of the most popular places to order from.
So it looks like they had the frog at iCast.
Yep. Yep, they're the frog and some stuff.
There's you in the background.
That was the jig from the top 10. And that was a Yubari craw I was using as a trailer on there.
We're learning today. I guess you did have the Caperlan on the back of your boat. I just never looked past the Mastiff in the middle of it.
Yep.
That's cool. Good little nuggets.
Yeah, should be a good deal.
So anything else you're excited? I mean, I guess one thing I put on my note, like I saw you peel the sticker off a new Explore unit. Have you got to, I mean, right? I assume you just got to start using it in the last couple days.
Yeah, I've had that for a couple weeks, for like a month now, but like actually being on the water with it, putting some time into it. Yeah, it's nice. Like it's basically like an Apex and a Helix combined. And it's like the sophistication and the customization that you get from an Apex unit with like the speed of a Helix unit, but it's also touchscreen. And then they also completely redesigned the software, which I'm really happy to see. Like that was one thing that I would constantly talk with them about is a lot of the little things that could be improved on the software side. And they like one of the biggest things was like the waypoint management. And I don't know if you saw, like you can actually go in there now. Let's say you have 10, 20, or 100 waypoints, and you can hit a button, circle all of them, and immediately with one click, change the color, change the icon, like, or just export that group. Like that was one big thing for me is like if I have multiple states of waypoints, I try to organize things by state. And it would be frustrating to try to like organize and pull just that state's waypoints out. Now I can just go into my map, circle all those, and then just export that group. Or I can like change them all from like blue icons to white icons. So they have just simplified and organized their entire like platform on that thing. And The software they updated, so that same software is now available on the Apexes as well. So like the software wise, that's going to be like the new standard. So you can do it on all of them, but the Explorer units are nice just because of like how quick they are, and I had both of them I don't know if I posted on social media or not, but I had both of them side by side with the Mega Live 2, and they're definitely pretty similar, like screen wise. The Apex has a little bit better resolution, but yeah, I mean for the price, I think the Explorer so far is pretty nice.
It seems like they kind of like upgraded the Helix, kept it at the
Yep.
same price point, and brought down the technology that was essential
From the Apex,
for most
right.
freshwater anglers, and left out the stuff that was overkill for 90% of the people that was in the Apex and Solix.
Yep.
And then made it a touch and button, so you got both, right?
Right. Yeah, made it touch, and what's cool too is they like just little things that they thought about is like typically the shortcut stuff, the shortcut panel and stuff would be on the left side, but all your buttons are on the right side. But now they moved all that over to the right side. So like, if your hand's on the unit, everything's right there. And now like there's overlays on a lot of the screens, so you don't have to go into the menu to like adjust the sensitivity. It's right there as like a small little overlay icon.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting question. Like you don't see Shimano on a bunch of pros, right? So how long have you been Shimano? How did that like relationship come about?
Yes, that's a good question. So to answer that indirectly, most things come from networking, and like you'll actually hear that a lot of deals come from like iCast, just because that's where people meet. Like, you go out to dinner, you meet so and so. Shimano was actually one that I was just kind of blessed with being in the right place, and just again, it's just knowing the right people. So the guy that is now the national sales manager used to work at Lunker City and help run the company, and then he left there, went to Shimano, worked his way up, and he also lives in Connecticut. And so I, through him, just I've always used Shimano, and then like knowing him, fishing with him, have just kind of been acquainted with him. And then, fishing the opens, I would get like some deals or discounts with Shimano. And then, once I made the elites, I, got a formal introduction, and I got in that way. So that Shimano is one of the hardest brands to definitely get on their pro staff, and for good reason. Like they are very selective about who they go with, not just being a good angler, but they want like good solid people. So it's definitely one that, like I said, if I wasn't sponsored by Shimano, I'd still be using their products. So like I really truly appreciate being on their pro staff and being a part of that team.
Very cool. Yeah, I appreciate you having you on. I definitely have talked to people, said that you were a pretty sharp guy and a well spoken, and it's been enjoyable. Like you haven't, being in your third year in your elites, you haven't exactly been on a ton of shows. I mean, you've done some interviews and some podcasts and things like that, but like there hasn't been a great chance for a lot of people to get to know you. So it's nice to be able to have some Q&A with the live chat here and get to learn a little bit more about Alex Wetherell for sure.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate you, just thinking about me and having me on.
Right on. Anything new this year? Right, I think you're switching to a bass cat this year.
Yeah, Bass Cat's brand new, which is nice. Like I started in a Stratus, and like that thing was fast, and it's nice to be in a fast boat. Like especially with some of the events that we have, we're going to be making long runs. Like I just posted yesterday, I got 77 out of it, and like I like a fast boat, so that's definitely going to be nice. And then another new thing is the batteries that I'm going to be running. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Solid State Marine before, but they are the first solid state lithium battery. So there's no liquid inside of the battery. There's no fire hazard involved with like some lithiums, and they're half as light as a lithium battery. And so they're like a quarter as light as a AGM battery. So it it's kind of crazy. Like their 90 100 amp hour battery is 12 pounds. So like it's pretty wild what they can do with the technology inside their batteries, and then also just what they are as a company, and they're on the saltwater side making the way into the freshwater side, and it's pretty cool. Like the total weight between trolling motor and starting battery is like 60 pounds.
So, good deal. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to follow along, get to know you. Yeah, we got about 5-6 weeks, and then things kick off on the St. John's.
Yeah,
Right?
it's only 5 weeks now, maybe even less than that.
It's like
So
end of February, right? Third or fourth week in
yeah,
February
third
or
week of
something like
February.
that.
It might even be like 4 weeks. So yeah, it's coming up quick. Like I got next week's an open. Come home for I think like 2 weeks, and then head back down, and we off and running.
Right on. Very cool. Well, wish you the best of luck. I do have, if people are watching, I do got some giveaway stuff to take care of here. I got so we've got some housekeeping and some things to cover if people want to hang on for a few minutes, but I tried to keep it to an hour-ish. You're East Coast, you got to get some sleep. You probably got to go out and burn some more gas for the Bass Cat tomorrow and yank on a few.
Yep. No, I like I said, I really appreciate you having me on, and yeah, it was good talking with you, and cool to see so many guys on here and asking questions. So I definitely appreciate it.
All right. Well, good luck, and we'll be following along. Thanks a
Cool.
lot.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, that was Alex Wetherell. Good interview. Yeah, I got the Mark Menendez was on BTL and he talked, and I thought it'd be a lot more interesting to get on the other end of the spectrum and somebody that people didn't know about a ton and get some information on the advisory board. So that was a pretty good interview. Maybe wasn't the one that's going to get a zillion clicks, but I think for the hardcore group of listeners and the people that are diehard on the MP3 would appreciate that. So I do. Well, just remember this, that like we had this Ninja Scissors from Arsenal from the punch stream that was going to go to a comment. And I want to go make sure that we do this here. So we're going to run through this. And then also, I'm probably going to give it one of these Arsenal fishing beanies live tonight. Let's help Alex get out. Try to enter the me. All right. So let's get this up. There are some people that still download podcasts, Sean. It's a thing. Glad you liked it, Scott. I have a pretty big bag, Sean. I'm pretty sure this would fit your dome too. Like, I mean, have we not covered how big my head is? It's the new Arsenal Ice beanie. But let me so I got a random comment picker from the stream that Punch and I did. And so we're gonna hit this. Doesn't like it. All right. Gotta figure out a better URL here. Un momento, por favor. Why did it not work? Maybe I need to go into my studio. Thought I had this figured out already. Need pick Sean. The greeny beanie, that's right, Colby. Yeah. So yes, back from December 20th, we were supposed to do this. Let me try this again here. All right. I don't think I need that stuff on there. This is what the freak? Why is this not working? Is this thing just a janky YouTube? Let's try a different one. Uh, nope. Number of winners, 1. Random names, animation, 8. Amount of comments, number 8. Start the winner. Look at this. Well, we're obviously going to redraw because I don't want to win that. What's up, Tony? Thanks for the comment. All right. There's only 8 entries. Warren Beard, if you're watching, Warren Beard, write this down. Leave me a comment, get a hold of me on IG, do something for your Arsenal Ninja players. Otherwise, if you don't claim it, we'll just give it to Carol because she wins everything. But, all right, done with that. Couple other things. So this is the new Arsenal Ice. I don't remember if you guys watched the show with Dan Fabiano, Arsenal guy. He was talking about the new Arsenal ice gear that was coming out. So I got some of it. I ordered some of it for myself. So this is the hoodie and the beanie. So the beanie, I do have a black beanie. So I ordered a green one and a black one, figuring that somebody in the crowd would want a nice warm black beanie with a sweet looking penguin on it. So in honor of the Arsenal ice fishing gear, I decided to buy one and give one away. So we'll do a drawing here in a second. But I will show this new Arsenal stuff off. Slow down on the hashtag beanie, Rich. You're jumping the gun. Let's just take a quick look at the Arsenal ice stuff. We could probably do the... What should we... We can't do hashtag beanie now. Hashtag penguin. If you want to get in. All right. So you scroll down on the Arsenal page and you go to the ice fishing section. You can see they've got a bundle where you get bait wraps and a bag and scissors and a beanie. Otherwise, they've got these 2 beanies, the one on my head, the black one. They've got some 2-color. They got a whole bunch of different ones. If anything is interesting to anybody. And then here's the hoodie that I'm wearing. They got a couple different hoodies as well. And of course, you can use code Hellabass15 if you want to grab this off the site. And actually, this is not the one I'm wearing. This is the other one. I have this one. This is the one I'm wearing right here. It's got a pretty substantial penguin on the back of it. If you're a big penguin guy. Colby says he never think he's typed the word penguin. So if you guys want to check it out, they've got the ice stuff out. And we'll do a drawing here. I'm pretty sure like there's plenty of room in this beanie. I'm confident, Sean, that it'll work. And it's wintertime. It's a good time for beanies. So I'm going to give away the black beanie. If anybody wants to grab some stuff, they can just go out to the Arsenal Fishing Ice. You can use code Hellabass15. Save yourself 15%. I'll put it in the chat if anybody wants. But otherwise, we're going to give one away tonight. But I got both these hoodies. I'll model the other hoodie. But it fits pretty true to size for an XL. It's got a nice hood on it. It's got a little bit of a fleece lining in it, so it's kind of soft on the inside. Overall, been wearing it around, staying warm. Yeah, I don't know. And it's not like, even if you're not an ice fisherman, but I've been wearing it to the hockey game for the rinks with my daughter. I'm not going ice fishing anytime soon. So, or if you just have somebody in your life that loves penguins, or if you're a big Bud Light or big Bud Ice fan and you miss it, then this guy kind of looks like the Bud Ice guy. 17 people in the drawing. Oh, and I got some ice fishing stuff coming from Colby. So 18 people. Conrad, I think Conrad actually ice fishes. Does it want one more? 9:30. Should we let another person get in? Do we draw it at 19? I will mention that I don't ask for this, and I probably should. I was looking at my podcast MP3 stats. If any of you listen to this on Apple Podcast or Spotify, you have to put a hashtag on it, Josh, if you want to enter. But if any of you guys download it in your podcast apps, if you could take a minute and give it a thumbs up or a rating, that'd be awesome. I'd appreciate it. I don't ask for a lot, and I don't ask for that very often, but evidently that's important to get a lot of MP3 downloads. So if any of you guys think of that, I would appreciate some reviews on some of the podcast apps. But give you one more 30 seconds if you want to re-enter by putting the hashtag in front of your penguin, Josh. Otherwise, other things to note, I have got all my rods out of the boat, out of the garage. There you go. You're in now, Josh. We're close to starting to do the arsenal videos. People have been asking me to do an updated rod and reel arsenal, and I've got piles of rods. So I just got to clear some space and think about the fresh way I want to do it this time. But I know people have been asking about doing an update on the rod and reel arsenal, and it's going to happen soon. I got the stuff in the basement to do it. All right, let's draw this bad boy. Who's going to win a beanie? Celebrating the new Arsenal ice launch. Top Toad, Rex. Rex won the Arsenal Pliers not that long ago, and now he's got himself a beanie, and he's in the Northland. And I'm kind of glad that he got the black one because the green one would probably be too close to the Packers color, Rex. So yeah, working on an update. David, Rex. I have not sold my boat yet, so the Camus is still for sale. If anybody knows anybody looking for a good deal on a Camus, send them my way. If you can introduce me to a buyer, I'd gladly send $500 your way. Colby says he's going to try some live streaming on Lake Mead tomorrow. That sounds cool. Congrats. I'll check what else was on my list here to cover. There's the new Omnia code for January. We talked about that. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Next week, I'm working on a guest. If anybody sees Warren Beard, let him know he won the scissors. I bought some other stuff from Arsenal that I'll probably be giving away in the next few weeks. So make sure you're subscribed and you're tuning in to the live streams. I was going to give away a couple memberships tonight because I think I can do that every month. So we'll throw out whatnot this week. I keep, maybe Sunday night, Darius, but I just have not been motivated to do the listings and get them ready. So our Hatter, Tim Grant, Mark Schill, Grimy Fishing, and Josh Harrop memberships. Oh man, I can't believe we sent one over the border. Even Frank got one. Hawks, yeah, he's hard to track down. And I don't know if you've noticed, he's done a few shows. A lot of times the shows he did, he's like on the move and he has a terrible signal, but it would be fun to talk to John Cox for sure. Sean's bragging about his 39 months. Colby's at 30. Yeah, Michael, I got there's a Loomis rod that I won in that Minnetonka tournament for catching big bass out there, and the Camus is on the Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, it does come with all the electronics, Lauren. I could I don't care about. I mean, I can leave the waypoints on there if somebody wants them. And also, if people don't want the electronics, I can negotiate them off. Or if they only want some of them, if they only want the Garmin, or they only want the Humminbirds, or they only want everything's negotiable. There you go, Tim. Darius, there you go. 37, Sean. Oh, Sean's 39. Can round up 40. I feel like we need to do a celebration. Do another giveaway for some of the members. I got some stuff for the members too coming up. I need to do a member stream as well. You forgot how to do what? Oh, it's just in like you click like you're gonna do a super chat. Like right where you chat, there's like a little $sign, and you can do it from there. Then if you're a member, you should have a like a free live scope for members. Yeah, I don't know if that's quite going to be there, Fish Camp TV, but the Beast Coast story. I could do a quick Beast Coast story coming up here. Maybe a combo of Beast Coast and what little I know behind the scenes about Dobbins. Maybe I can do a quick one on that one of these nights. Maybe tomorrow night. We got hockey the rest of the weekend. All right. Thanks everybody tuning in. Check out the Arsenal ice fishing stuff. I don't know. That's about it for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. If you came in late, check out the replay. MP3, Facebook, all the things. I've got some good videos I just rolled out. I've been getting some good interaction as well. So we'll see everybody. Definitely we'll have a guest next week, next Wednesday night. Just got to get somebody locked in. So as always, here to help you guys catch more big bass and suck less. New year, January, we're rolling. Everybody stay warm, stay good, be good. See you next time.